You've never lost a fight that happened entirely in your head. Think about that for a second. In there, you're articulate, you're calm, you say exactly the right thing at exactly the right moment, the other person finally understands, the imaginary room goes quiet, and everyone who was supposed to witness it did. Then a car horn, or your alarm, or someone says your name, and you're back, standing in the shower, driving on the motorway, sitting in a meeting you stopped listening to 12 minutes ago with the expression of someone accepting a Lifetime Achievement Award. And the strangest part, you weren't even aware you left. That's not daydreaming, not really. Daydreaming is glancing out a window for 30 seconds. What this is something else entirely. This is a whole other place. One with recurring characters, unfinished conversations, entire storylines that have been running quietly in your background of life for years. And if something in you just went quiet hearing that, stay with me, because what I'm about to explain might be the most accurate thing you've ever heard about how your mind actually works. So, what is actually going on neurologically when you do this? Your brain has a network called the default mode network that activates specifically when you stop paying attention to the outside world. The moment your focus drifts from whatever's in front of you, this network lights up and it starts generating you, your memories, your fears, your rehearsed conversations, your imagined futures, your best arguments delivered 3 weeks too late. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. But in some people, and this is the important part, that network doesn't just activate occasionally, it becomes the preferred setting. The brain starts to treat internal simulation as more rewarding than external reality. And once that shift happens, the real world starts to feel thin, flat, like it's missing something it's hard to name. A clinical psychologist at the University of Haifa, Professor Eli Samer, formally identified this pattern in 2002. He called it maladaptive daydreaming, and while that term still doesn't fully capture what it feels like from the inside, it's the most grounded framework we have. What he found wasn't just distraction. People were spending hours, sometimes the majority of their waking day, inside narratives they had built entirely in their own minds. Detailed worlds, recurring characters, plots that evolved over months and years. And almost every single one of them had one thing in common. The fantasy world gave them something the real world hadn't. Not escapism in the dismissive way people throw that word around, like you're just avoiding responsibility. It's more specific than that. The imagined scenarios give people control, emotional resolution, a version of connection that feels safe in a way real relationships sometimes don't. You can pause a fake conversation, rewind it. You can make the other person finally understand in a way the actual human in your life never quite did. That sounds like quite the adaptation, doesn't it? And here's where it gets complicated. The brain starts to learn that emotional needs can be met internally, and once that learning becomes strong enough, stepping back into the friction of real life starts to feel genuinely worse than staying inside. Real people are unpredictable. Real conversations don't go the way you scripted them. Real intimacy is slow and uncertain and involves sitting with discomfort for longer than feels okay. The daydream never disappoints you that way. So you keep going back, not because you're broken, because your brain found something that works, and it's remarkably good at repeating what works. And people get this wrong. It's not about being creative. Some of the most imaginative people in the world don't experience this at all, and some people who've never written a word of fiction in their lives do it compulsively every single day. It's not about intelligence either. The research points to something called absorption, a personality trait linked to deep, immersive focus. The people most prone to this are the same people who get completely lost in music, who can't watch a meaningful film without feeling genuinely wrecked afterward, who feel everything just a little more intensely than the people around them. So they built a room where they could feel things on their own terms. And then there's the part nobody talks about, the shame that comes after. When you're 30 minutes deep into a scenario, you know on some level that time kept moving while you were gone. Resurfacing carries this strange emotional aftertaste. Hard to name, easy to feel. And before you've even consciously decided anything, you're already halfway back in. The shame feeds the need deepens the habit, and the habit quietly starts taking up more and more space where your actual life is supposed to be happening. But here's what I need you to hear. This is not inherently a flaw, not even slightly. The people who develop this pattern are, statistically, people who at some point needed an exit door that the real world wasn't providing. Maybe their home wasn't safe. Maybe they were chronically lonely in environments that were supposed to feel welcoming. Maybe they were just a little too sensitive for the particular world they landed in. And this was the most creative, least destructive way their nervous system found to cope. The daydream was not the problem, it was the solution to one. The only real question is whether it's still serving you now, or whether it started to cost you something. And here's where I need you to slow down before you jump to fixing it. Because the goal isn't to eliminate your inner world. That makes no psychological sense. The goal is to figure out what the disappearing is doing for you, and then, slowly, probably awkwardly, start building some of that in reality. What does the imagined connection give you that you're not letting yourself ask for out loud? What does the fantasy resolution give you that you're not allowing yourself to actually pursue? What is the scenario rehearsing that you're too afraid to actually live? The fact that you can build entire worlds inside your mind, with emotional nuance, with characters that feel real, with storylines that run for years, that's not a disorder. That's an extraordinary capability that just never found the right outlet. The people who experience this most intensely are often sitting on an enormous amount of internal richness. They just decided somewhere along the way that depth was only safe when it was invisible. So, if you watched this entire video and felt a particular kind of quiet recognition, not the, "oh, that's interesting" kind, but the kind where you had to remind yourself to breathe, I just want to say, nothing about you needs to be fixed. You adapted, quietly, privately, in a way nobody ever saw or gave you credit for. And that matters. If this video resonated with you, I've linked some books on psychology and human behavior in the description. They go deeper into everything we covered today. And if you want more content like this, subscribing and hitting the notification bell genuinely helps. I'll see you in the next one.